What if I told you that the 100% organic or, ethically sourced tag hanging off the collar of your brand new shirt is, well, mathematically speaking, it's highly likely to be a complete fiction.
Yeah, which is a pretty jarring thought for most people, I think.
Right. And I don't mean that the brand you bought it from is necessarily like lying to your face in a malicious way, but the uncomfortable truth here is that the global supply chain relies on this sprawling system of paperwork that essentially functions as organized make-believe.
That's a really good way to put it. Make-believe.
Yeah, so when you buy that shirt or, say, a leather bag or timber flooring, you aren't actually verifying the physical material in your hands. You're just putting all your faith into a curated piece of cardboard.
And for decades, the massive global brands selling you those products have been perfectly happy with that arrangement.
Oh, for sure.
Because relying on a piece of paper provided them with this ultimate corporate shield, right?
Yeah.
Plausible deniability.
Exit.
As long as the audit documents looked clean, they didn't have to ask the hard questions about where the material actually originated.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to tear down that shield of plausible deniability. We're exploring a genuinely groundbreaking technology that's completely revolutionizing how we trace the origins of everyday goods.
It really is a total game changer.
It is. It's a solution that proves the paper trails in our global supply chains are a fiction. So, our focus today is on a special awards insider feature profiling a company called Oritain.
Right, the 2026 winners.
Yep, they are the 2026 E&E Leader Judges Choice winner for environmental impact. And, to understand why this technology just won such a massive award, we have to look at why the current system is so fundamentally broken.
Right, because it's arguably the defining problem of modern global commerce. I mean, we live in an era of just unbelievably complex logistics.
Oh, it's dizzying.
Goods cross borders, oceans, dozens of intermediaries before they ever reach a retail shelf. And in a system with that many blind spots, the only reliable, uncompromised witness to a product's origin is the
physical product itself.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I was reading through the notes in our sources, and there's this core quote that just perfectly summarizes the whole mess. The problem is that none of them verify the product. They verify the paperwork.
Yeah, that quote hits the nail on the head.
Right. Because traditional traceability tools, things like documentation, third-party audit certifications, they all rely on manual processes and self-reporting.
Completely.
It's like, imagine buying a used car, right? And the dealer hands you this spotless, perfect vehicle history report. But you look out the window and the car's engine is actively smoking on the lot.
Right, yeah. You're trusting the paper over the reality.
Exactly. You're trusting a curated piece of paper over the physical reality right in front of your face.
And what's fascinating here is how the mechanics of modern supply chains actually make that kind of deception so incredibly easy.
How so? Like logistically speaking.
Well, think about how products actually move. The industry uses these terms. Aggregation and disaggregation. Let's trace that cotton shirt you mentioned.
Okay.
The raw cotton is harvested from dozens of different farms. Then it's sent to a ginner where it's all blended together.
Right, so it's already mixed up.
Exactly. Then it goes to a spinner to become yarn, mixed again. Then to a weaver to become fabric, then a dyer, then a cut and sew facility.
Wow.
And at every single one of those stages, the material changes hands between different legal entities across different international borders.
So it's not a straight pipeline at all. It's more like a massive river delta. You have hundreds of tiny tributaries merging into one stream, and by the time it reaches the factory, the waters are completely mixed.
That river delta analogy is perfect.
Yeah.
And once that water is mixed, you can't just pull out a drop and ask a piece of paper which specific tributary it came from.
Right, because the paper only tells you what the person who mixed the water wants you to know.
Precisely. Even when brands use sophisticated digital tracking, all they're really doing is monitoring the movement of PDFs through a digital pipeline. They're basically auditing the honor system.
And when you're relying on the honor system in an environment involving billions of dollars, bad actors are obviously going to exploit it.
Oh, without a doubt. It becomes so easy to curate that documentation. You backfill the paperwork to make it look perfect.
Or, like the sources mentioned, in some regions, fraudulent certificates of origin are just straight up purchased on the black market.
Yeah, just bought and paid for. And that is exactly how globally devastating issues manage to stay hidden in plain sight. Things like illegal deforestation in the Amazon or, forced labor in specific cotton-growing regions.
Because nobody is voluntarily checking a box on an audit form admitting to environmental crimes.
Exactly. They just hide their raw materials in that complex mixing bowl, print a clean certificate, and pass it down the line.
Which brings us right back to plausible deniability. The brands at the end of the line can just throw their hands up and say, hey, we hired an auditor, the paperwork said it was ethical, we did our due diligence.
Yep. And that context is vital for understanding Oritain's radical premise. So they were founded in 2008, headquartered in London, and they looked at this flawed ecosystem and realized trying to fix the paperwork was a losing battle.
Right, so stop asking the supply chain and start asking the product.
Exactly. They developed this methodology called forensic origin verification. They completely bypass the documents and analyze the physical chemistry of the actual good.
Okay, I love the ambition there. But I have to say, when I first read that, I was highly skeptical.
Oh, sure. A lot of people are.
I mean, I'm thinking about anyone listening who's ever done a load of laundry. How can a finished cotton shirt or leather bag still retain a map of where it came from?
It seems impossible, right?
Yeah, think about what that shirt goes through. It's violently washed, heavily bleached, dyed with harsh synthetic chemicals. It's pressed under intense heat. Surely any organic map is completely obliterated by the time it's on a hanger.
It's a totally logical concern. But that is exactly where the science becomes truly elegant. To understand how the map survives the bleaching and the dyeing, you have to understand what the map actually is.
Okay.
It's not a stain on the surface of the fabric. It is structural. It all comes down to the environment. Soil chemistry, water composition, local geology. These factors vary drastically by geography.
Right. The actual dirt is different in Texas versus, say, India.
Exactly. And everything that is grown or harvested absorbs a measurable trace of its specific local environment at a fundamental molecular level.
Wait, really? So as the cotton plant is growing, it's literally building its cells out of that specific local environment?
That's right. As it drinks irrigation water from the soil, it absorbs the isotopic signature of that specific water.
Okay, and just to clarify for everyone listening, when we say isotopes, we're talking about variations of basic chemical elements, right? Like different weights of oxygen or carbon.
Yes, elements naturally occur in slightly different masses, and the exact ratio of those variations is completely unique to a specific geographical location.
Oh, wow.
But Oritain goes even deeper. They also analyze what are known as non-traditional isotopes.
Non-traditional?
Yeah, these are heavier trace elements. Think of metals like strontium or neodymium that come directly from the deep bedrock. Timber absorbs the precise chemical profile of the forest soil it grew in. Leather reflects the exact region where the animal was raised.
So by mapping these elements together, Oritain generates an origin fingerprint.
Exactly.
But I want to dig into the actual mechanics of this, because if we're talking about trace elements locked inside a cotton fiber, they can't just hold my shirt under a microscope. How do they actually extract that data?
They have to physically break the sample down. In the lab, they took a small snippet of the product, whether it's raw cotton or the finished shirt, and they essentially dissolve it.
Okay.
They reduce it to its atomic components. Once it's broken down, they run it through highly advanced forensic equipment, like a mass spectrometer.
Right, which sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It kind of is. This equipment literally weighs the atoms and counts them, providing an unbelievably precise ratio of the isotopes present in the sample.
Ah, okay. So that completely answers the question about the manufacturing process.
Right.
You can bleach the cotton, you can dye it bright red, you can spin it, but you cannot alter the fundamental atomic weight of the strontium that the plant used to build its cells.
Precisely. The chemical trace of that specific soil and water is permanently locked into the material's atomic structure. It cannot be faked, and it cannot be washed out.
That is wild. But having a fingerprint is only half the battle, right? Like if I find a fingerprint at a crime scene, it's completely useless unless I have a database of suspects to match it against.
Yes, very true.
So how does Oritain know that a specific ratio of isotopes means the cotton came from Texas versus another country?
And that is where the heavy lifting of the last decade comes in. They didn't just develop the testing method. They spent years building one of the world's most comprehensive geographic reference databases.
So they actually went out and collected dirt?
They physically went out and sampled the soil, the water, and the raw materials from regions all over the globe. Then they use advanced data science and complex statistical modeling to compare the chemical data from your shirt against these baseline samples.
So it's essentially a massive matching game driven by statistical probabilities.
Yes. If a supplier's paperwork claims the cotton came from a certified sustainable farm in the U.S., but the statistical model shows the origin fingerprint is a 99% match for a region known for forced labor.
The lie is instantly exposed.
Instantly. The paperwork says one thing, but the physical chemistry of the product says another. And the chemistry doesn't lie.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If the atomic structure can't be faked and the chemistry doesn't lie, then we're no longer just talking about some internal corporate sustainability initiative. We are talking about hard forensic evidence.
Oh, absolutely. It completely upends the legal landscape for these companies.
Right, because if this data is immutable, it's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. Because the science relies on the physical reality rather than fallible human records, the verification is completely tamper-proof. And because it's tamper-proof, it crosses a massive threshold. It becomes legally admissible as evidence in a court of law.
Wow. So this is where the concept of plausible deniability officially dies. A legally admissible atomic fingerprint is a massive leap from a self-reported compliance PDF.
It shifts the entire power dynamic of global trade enforcement. I mean, to give you an idea of the scale of this shift, the most significant result Oritain has achieved so far is with the federal government.
The U.S. government.
Yes. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the CBP, and the Department of Homeland Security officially recognize Oritain's audit results as accepted evidence for UFLPA compliance.
Okay, let's define that acronym quickly because it's vital. UFLPA stands for the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. It's a strict federal regulation in the U.S. designed to block the importation of any goods mined, produced, or manufactured, wholly or in part through forced labor, specifically targeting certain regions.
Correct. And earning the recognition of federal regulators like the DHS and CBP for UFLPA compliance is an incredibly high bar to clear.
I can imagine.
It means the underlying science, the methodology, and the statistical modeling have been rigorously evaluated by the highest levels of the federal government and deemed credible enough to support direct legal enforcement action.
That is huge, because we hear a lot about ESG scrutiny these days, right? Environmental, social, and governance standards. Investors and consumers are always demanding that companies prove their ESG claims.
Yeah, it's a huge buzzword right now.
But normally, if a company gets caught with bad sourcing, it's just a PR nightmare. They issue an apology, promise to do better, maybe pay a fine. What you're describing is entirely different.
It elevates sustainability from corporate marketing to severe legal consequences. When Oritain catches an origin lie now, it doesn't just result in a bad news cycle. It results in shipping containers physically being stopped at the border.
Wow.
It results in millions of dollars of illicit products being seized and permanently removed from the supply chain. It means vulnerable ecosystems like the Amazon rainforest are being defended through undeniable forensic evidence of origin fraud.
I am curious about the logistics of scaling this, though, because everything we've just discussed, extracting trace isotopes, breaking samples down in mass spectrometers, running data science models, that is frankly sci-fi level forensic technology.
It is intensely technical, yeah.
So how does a company headquartered in London actually police billions of tons of cotton, leather, and timber moving around the globe? Are brands forced to build their own multi-million-dollar labs to check their supply chains?
Right. If that were the case, this would just be a niche tool for the ultra-wealthy mega brands.
Exactly.
But Oritain operates through a membership program, which makes the verification accessible at various scales. Instead of requiring companies to build proprietary tech, they utilize a globally distributed network of independent laboratories that operate under ISO 14025 accreditation.
Okay, and ISO 14025 is essentially the international gold standard for testing and calibration labs, right?
Yep, that's the one.
It's what ensures that a lab in one country is using the exact same rigorous procedures as a lab in another.
Exactly. It guarantees that whether a raw timber sample is broken down in Europe, Asia, or the Americas, the scientific rigor and the chain of custody are consistently reliable.
Which is crucial for legal evidence.
Precisely. That standardization ensures the results will withstand legal scrutiny anywhere. And through this accredited network, they're actively delivering verification at a massive scale across cotton, leather, and timber, which are sectors where origin fraud is notoriously acute.
It really paints a picture of a paradigm shift. We're witnessing the death of the honor system and the birth of a true verification system.
We really are.
And that shift is exactly why the broader sustainability industry has had to fundamentally reevaluate what proof actually means. Which brings us perfectly back to their recent award. As we established at the top of the deep dive, Oritain is the 2026 E&E Leaders' Choice winner for environmental impact.
Right, in the project category. And to give some context on that, E&E Leader Awards are evaluated by an incredibly stringent independent panel of experts across energy, sustainability, operations, and finance.
So it's not just a popularity contest.
Oh, not at all.
Yep.
Earning the Judge's Choice designation means Oritain wasn't just recognized. They were the highest scoring entry in their entire category.
I want to read a direct quote from the judging panel because I think it perfectly crystallizes the stakes here. One judge wrote, "Unlike initiatives focused on awareness or voluntary improvement, Oritain's work results in direct removal of environmentally harmful products from supply chains, protection of vulnerable ecosystems, and enforceable regulatory action."
That's a powerful statement.
It is. So what does this all mean? When you look at the landscape of corporate sustainability right now, that distinction is massive.
It boils down to the fundamental difference between self-reporting and improvement and providing definitive proof.
Right.
If you look at the broad spectrum of environmental initiatives that usually win these awards, most of them produce improvements based on proxy data. A company might reduce its carbon emissions by 10% or switch to a more efficient packaging.
Which is good.
Those are positive, necessary steps. But at the end of the day, they're still self-reported metrics. What Oritain produces is proof.
Proof, not proxy data, not a promise printed on a cardboard tag, but physical atomic evidence.
Exactly. Every major supply chain in the world has stacks of certifications, filing cabinets full of paperwork confirming their ethical sourcing. But almost none of them have independent forensic evidence that those certifications reflect the physical reality of the materials.
Because up until now, they didn't have to.
Right. But in an era of intense ESG scrutiny, consumers, investors, and regulators are demanding more than just good intentions. The ability to stand before a federal regulator and defend a sustainability claim with court-admissible, isotopic evidence is an incredibly powerful game changer.
It's the ultimate trump card. When a watchdog group or a journalist or U.S. Customs challenges a company's sourcing, that company no longer has to scramble to find a PDF from 3 years ago. They don't have to point at the river delta and guess which stream the water came from. They can simply say, test the product.
And the product will testify.
The product will testify. That fundamentally changes how you have to look at the physical objects around you. The next time you're out shopping and you run your hand across a leather bag or try on a cotton t-shirt, or maybe you're looking at timber flooring, I want you to think about this.
It's a crazy thing to visualize.
It really is. Think about the silent chemical history locked deep inside the cellular structure of that material. It's carrying a molecular diary of the exact soil, the exact trace metals, and the exact water of the environment where it was born. And unlike a piece of paper, that history cannot be manipulated, it cannot be bought on the black market, and it cannot be lied about.
And that reality leaves us with a fascinating and maybe slightly intimidating question to mull over long after we wrap up today.
What's that?
Well, right now, this technology is actively transforming the cotton, leather, and timber industries. But if forensic origin verification eventually scales to cover every raw material in the global market, from the cobalt in our smartphone batteries to the coffee beans in our mugs, what happens to the global brands who have built their entire business models on looking the other way?
Oh, wow.
For decades, companies hid behind the complexity of their supply chains, claiming they simply didn't know a supplier was acting unethically because, well, the paperwork looked fine. If the product itself can always testify in court, the corporate shield of plausible deniability isn't just broken, it is permanently destroyed.
If you have questions about being a part of future segments or other partnership opportunities, reach out to a member of our team today. Links are located in the body of this session's description.